So let's go ahead and send it over to our next segment, Climbing the Ranks.
Welcome to Climbing the Ranks. In this segment, me and Mark are going to be tier listing things within Star Wars. Our tier list consists of 5 tiers, the top being Commander, then Captain, Lieutenant, Sergeant, and the bottom tier, Cadet. This time around, we're going to be tier listing the Star Wars shows. There are 9 of them. We're going to go through, tier list them. We're going to give our thoughts, see where we want to put them, and hopefully it doesn't take too long. Let us know if you have any other ideas for tier lists in the comment section below. Obviously, we're doing this one. We'll probably do movies eventually, but we're going to keep this to shows this time around. So our first show up, I feel like this is the best one to start with. Technically not the first show, but we're going to say it's the first show.
Yeah.
Star Wars The Clone Wars. My initial thoughts, it should probably go in Commander. I mean, this is just... Yeah. There's a reason that so many people say it's the best. It is amazing across the board. Does it slip in quality in the earlier seasons? Yes. But, once you hit that 4th season and on, like, it is stellar Star Wars from there on out. And even then, in those early seasons, they're very enjoyable. They still have a lot of great arcs in them. But just the quality jump from season 4 onward is just another level. So yeah, I'd say Commander.
Need I say much about this show? It's like you said, people call it the best for a reason. The quality later on it's insane. It's almost like movie quality. Like, it's just like season 7 was absolutely ridiculous. Provided such great moments, some top tier moments, some peak Star Wars moments. And I agree with you. I don't think it could be anywhere else but Commander. So
yeah, this is my favorite era of Star Wars. Seeing the story of the clones is amazing, and a lot of stuff is now in Star Wars is stemming off of that. Like, we are, the Mortis arc. We're seeing a lot of cloning stuff, because of the sequels, where we're getting a lot of cloning stuff going in. Like, the Bad Batch stems off of this, which we'll talk about later in this tier list. It's the first Star Wars show. It's the catalyst for everything. Phenomenal. We're going to go ahead and put it in Commander. So next up, we have another start, because this is the start of the Star Wars live action.
Yep.
Live action shows. The Mandalorian. Initial thoughts. The thing is, I love Star Wars so much, it's hard to not put everything so high. We've had this discussion on Climbing the Ranks before.
Yeah.
My initial thought is probably Captain. I think it is in that upper echelon of Star Wars shows. Season 1, phenomenal. It's just like, it was such a breath of fresh air when it came to Star Wars. And it hit from start to finish. Season 2, just as amazing. The end of season 2 gave us literally one of the greatest episodes in Star Wars history.
That last episode was insane.
And season 3, I still loved it. They definitely took it in a different direction from the previous seasons, and I think there's rumored to be a 4th, and I would expect it to be similar to season 3 in that aspect.
Yeah.
Does it like drop a little bit because of that? Maybe, just as a show, because it seems like it's losing direction, kind of. but I still think it's. I mean, it's probably the most popular within casual fans, and that's for a reason because it is just an enjoyable show. It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
So what do you got to say about it?
Well, man, because it does like season 1 and 2 to me were like, dude, those were top tier, man. That season 1 just hit different. But that season 3, like, I liked it, but it definitely did kind of bring it down for me a little bit. Because, like you said, that the direction focused more of like the Mandalorians as a
Yeah.
whole, and not like the Mandalorian, Mando, Din Djarin,
Mm-hmm.
of course. And I feel like season 4 is gonna be like that too. And I don't know how I feel about it because it feels like it's more of the, because obviously Dave Filoni is making his show, or not show, his movie. It feels like that is kind of what it's being used for now, is kind of pushing movie stuff like leading into that movie.
Yeah.
Even though I think Ahsoka is supposed to be leading, but maybe not. I don't really know yet. But anyway, get back to this. That's kind of feel like where they're going with the show, and I don't know how I feel about it. I would say Commander, but with the direction that they're going, I don't think I can put it in Commander.
Mm-hmm.
Even though the season 1 and 2, like that, dude, that was so good. But I'm absolutely cool with the captain tier.
All right, we'll go ahead and throw it in captain. I'm completely
Shout out,
fine with that.
shout out to Jack Black too. That was probably my favorite moment from season 3 was seeing Jack
And
Black.
he was literally just his character was himself. He was not
Yeah,
playing a
that's like
character. He was just Jack Black.
that was the best part.
Okay, so next up, we'll go ahead and go to the most recent, Ahsoka. Now we're doing this fresh off of the season ending.
Yep.
And this was another one where I felt like I wasn't, fully sure on what it was going to bring us. And it delivered.
Oh yeah.
It delivered. It is some amazing Star Wars. A lot of people when they say they want Star Wars, they want lightsabers. They want the Force. They want stuff like that, which I can understand. To me, Star Wars is way more than that. So I don't care about that for me to like be like, oh, I want Star Wars, so I want this. I'll take anything. If it's in the Star Wars universe, it's Star Wars to me.
Mm-hmm.
But to just, stop being on that sort of conversation, I think the show's amazing. Bringing back Ahsoka and having this whole adventure after Rebels to get Ezra back and leading into this Heir to the Empire movie with Thrawn, I think it's a great thing to have in between the originals and the sequels to kind of bridge them a lot more. And I hope in that movie we see a lot of First Order development and like how that sort of gets rolling. I hope it doesn't, steer shy of that.
Yeah.
But I think Ahsoka is the perfect segue for that. I'm assuming there's going to be a season 2, and I'm looking forward to that even more. They're again pulling from Clone Wars. They're pulling from Rebels. They're pulling from things in Legends, and just bringing all these things into canon and bringing them into a live action show. The performances were great. The thing is, I have a preconceived thought in my mind of what Commander is going to look like. I would probably have to put this in Captain.
Okay, I mean,
I even I love the show.
Yeah. No, I can get down with the Captain. I think because I can kind of picture like what I want Commander to. And I think this is like the Mandalorian. I feel like it falls just shy of the Commander tier. It's very close, like very close to hitting that Commander tier.
Yeah.
Because I'm obviously we're gonna talk about this other show, later. I love the Rebels characters. I loved seeing them in live action. They all were cast. I thought they were cast amazingly. They all played their role like pretty much to a T. I think they were interpreted almost perfectly. I mean, I would say probably perfectly, honestly.
Yeah.
Seeing Chopper again in live action was just, man, that was so cool. Balin's Skull and Shin, some great, phenomenal new additions to the universe. Obviously, I said this when we were doing our review and watching Ahsoka. Thrawn might be more intimidating in this than in Rebels. I'm not gonna lie. Just the way that he, like, his aura that he had on screen and the way that he was portrayed, man, he was terrifying at points.
It's just his being able to see in live action his like stoicness, where he is just blank face the whole time, no expression, just the coldest dude ever. That's what gives you that for sure.
Yes, and he was just, he was back to his just tactical self. Man, it was perfect. But I mean, I think it's got to go in Captain.
I'm 100% down with that. Throw it right next to Mando. Which, I mean, for Ahsoka to be right next to Mando there, with Mando having 3 seasons, a lot more development, that just is a testament to Ahsoka with how great it is.
Yes.
But you mentioned a little bit about Rebels. The next show, Star Wars Rebels. I mean, this was the first Disney show. They canceled the Clone Wars for this show, which, I'll be honest, I think that is why it gets hate. It gets hate for that and the animation style.
Yeah.
I don't mind either. Would I love for the Clone Wars to continue when Disney acquired Star Wars? Yeah. But Rebels is also great. So, in terms of the tier list, I'll talk about that before I talk about the show a little bit. This is going to be tough.
It is. It's going to be really tough.
Because you could see what I'm thinking here. I think it probably is going to have to go in Lieutenant.
It's
Dude,
so unfortunate,
it's
man.
so good. It's so good,
dude.
But the thing is, we're just gonna keep going, and everything is gonna be in Captain. Like that's just like, so. To preface this for everyone watching, if we put something in Lieutenant or Sergeant, it doesn't mean we don't like it. It is literally just comparing it to the other shows.
I love
doesn't
every
mean
single
it's
one
bad.
Of these shows. I love every single one of them. Like
I love every single one. But tiering them against each other, it's probably gonna have to go in Lieutenant.
It's so tough for me to do.
Yeah, but having this, Clone Wars was about so many things and so many different characters, but Rebels was kind of the opposite, where it was just this family, and you get super attached to them because of that. 4 seasons. The ending is unreal. That 4th season, brutal. Like the last, 6 episodes or something, are just
it's so brutal.
Unlike anything else. So, I mean, just seeing the Kanan and Ezra relationship is, I mean, that's a top 5 duo, like,
it has
or top 5 relationship within Star Wars. Just the bond that they have, it's next level. And having a show about like the Empire and the Rebels, I think is a good thing to have, because at the time we didn't have anything in between there. We had the Clone Wars, and we didn't even have Rogue One yet when this started.
Yeah.
We didn't have Rogue One. We didn't have Solo. We had nothing in it. It was the first thing in between the prequels and the originals. So, which now we're kind of overloaded in that era.
Yeah, but, very much so.
But there's things within that era that are about different things. I think this is just, it was the perfect story. It came at the perfect time. I think it's phenomenal. So I have to say Lieutenant. I'll let you say what you gotta say, but
Oh man, the first I'll just go through the first time that I seen this show, and I like seen the trailer. I was like, what is this kids show? I was like, I'm not watching this. First thing I thought of, I'm not watching this. This is like a kids show. I don't like it. As soon as I started watching it, dude, I was hooked. I couldn't stop watching. I'm like,
uh,
I'd be staying up so late, and I just would look at the time, like, man, like I gotta go to bed, but like I want to watch just. I was like, just one more, just one more. I gotta finish this arc. It was. This show is just. It's so. I can't explain to you how underrated this show is. The fact that people will sit there and just be like, oh, I don't like the animation style, so I won't watch it. Is like the. That was my reasoning, part of my reasoning, and also because I thought it was a kid show, but which I guess it kind of is, but like it's also like
yeah.
phenomenally told. But the fact that people don't watch it because of that is just utterly mind blowing to me. This is, in my mind, this is like top tier Star Wars. I mean, Filoni and the whole crew that they were cooking when they made this show.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Kanan is like, in my mind, like the perfect Jedi that you could possibly be. He's the true embodiment of what a Jedi should be. The relationships you talked about, the whole family aspect was great. Obviously we got the introduction of Thrawn, a very beloved character. And just, I mean, this is top tier. Obviously, I want to put in Captain, but
yeah.
I'll let you be the voice of reason. We can go ahead and throw in Lieutenant.
I just
Even though it
feel
pains
like
me.
I know exactly how the rest of this tier list is gonna go, and I think it just has to go in Lieutenant.
It's brutal for me because I really want to see it. I want to see it in Commander, but
yeah, it's at least in like, I feel like you got to think of this tier list as literally the numbers of
oh yeah,
where they would go on like a top 10 list, or a top 9, because there's 9 of them.
yeah,
You kind of got to think of it like that, and the place where Rebels would be is still very good. Like, it's just,
yeah. I
so
can't let my feelings blind me.
all right. Let's move on to the next one. We're gonna move on to the Book of Boba Fett. This is, I mean, to be honest, this might be the most controversial show. This and Kenobi are probably the two that are like very 50-50 when it comes to opinions on it. I'll outright say it. I think it's the weakest show. But again, I don't think it's bad. I still love it.
Yeah, so do
I
I.
love seeing the story of Boba Fett. His story with the Tuskens is amazing. Him having this sort of realization that he does not have to continue the life that he lives. Like, he gets out of the Sarlacc and it's a second chance. He does not have to do it again. He can do it differently.
Yep.
And I love that they did that with his character. I think the characters in the show are super fun. Fennec, amazing. Love having Chris Santon. That's super cool.
Oh yeah.
Danny Trejo.
Dude,
that's just hilarious.
That's way too funny.
I would say.
Oh, who else was in that show? It was the like the cybernetic.
Oh, you're talking about Thundercat.
Thundercat, that's who it is. We had Thundercat.
Yes, Thundercat is that's just a funny
hilarious.
appearance.
It's just so funny, man.
That's like comparable to like Jack Black and Lizzo. Like, it's just such a random appearance, but it just, I'm cool with it.
Yeah, it's like, that's cool.
But I would say the biggest downfall, I think a lot of people would agree with what I'm about to say, but I think a lot of people think the biggest downfall is like the direction they took Boba's character and just, stuff like that. But I think the biggest downfall is just having a 7-episode series and 2 of the episodes are taken up by Mando.
Yeah.
I understand why. Like, this show is it's a spin-off from The Mandalorian, and they're all interconnected with each other. But that doesn't mean you just cut off episodes from Boba's story.
Exactly. I couldn't agree more.
It's just if you're gonna do that, I feel like you could give me more episodes then.
Exactly.
And I think they're doing Tamara Morrison a little dirty. I think this deserves a second season. I think Boba's character deserves more development and more attention before we get to the Heir to the Empire movie, because I'd imagine he's going to be included.
He should be.
He very much should be. But because of those 2 episodes in a 7-episode series, I think because of that, it just turns into the weakest show. But I still love it. That's at the end of it all. That's what I can say about every single one of these. Is I still love it. I still enjoy watching it. I will go and watch it right now if you told me to.
Of course.
I would have no issue with that. But I would say Sergeant.
Yeah,
in terms of comparing them to the other shows, not saying like Sergeant is bad, Cadet is the worst, is legitimately bad. Sergeant in this is just, it's a step below Rebels. It's a step below that tier. Doesn't mean it's bad. So I'm putting it in Sergeant. To me, what are you thinking?
Yeah, no, I like Sergeant. I think it's definitely below Rebels, of course, but it's still a great show. I don't like the direction that they went with. Well, okay, when I mean direction, I mean not Boba Fett's character. I loved his character arc. They just needed to focus on him more, like you said.
Yeah.
And basically everything I wanted to say, you said. But I do have a message for Disney. Please put Tamara Morrison in more Star Wars. I'm sick and tired of not seeing him in more Star Wars. He could be Captain Rex, Boba Fett. He could be a bunch of different characters. Please put him in more Star Wars. He wants to be in more Star Wars. Put him in more Star Wars.
We deserve
a Book of Boba Fett season 2.
Yes, 100%.
Where it's strictly focused on Boba and his whole crew that he's got now.
Yes, give Boba the light,
please.
So we'll go ahead. We'll throw it in Sergeant. I think the tier list is looking great so far. We got 4 more shows left.
It's a solid list.
But now we're moving on to the big dog, Mark. We're moving on to Andor.
The best show.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and say it now. It's going in Commander.
Yes.
It's the best show. It is. This came out of nowhere. When it was announced, when we knew it was coming out, it's not that I didn't have interest in it, because I have interest in anything Star Wars. But it was not something that I was like, oh, I really want to see that. Like when Ahsoka was announced, I was like, oh, I really want to see that. Like, what happens with Ahsoka? When even Book of Boba Fett, I'm like, oh, I want to see how Boba Fett lived and like what's going on with him. Like, I wanted to see that. When Andor was announced, I was like, I don't really know, because I felt like Rogue One, you don't always need an explanation for why a character does something. Like, Andor was just another rebel, another person in the rebellion to me. So I didn't feel like I needed this whole explanation or this whole show. And it blew me away. Tony Gilroy had the pen on fire writing this thing.
Yes.
Every episode hits this easily has like the best episodes in any Disney Star Wars show, I feel like. Or it definitely has the strongest full season in any show.
Yes.
12 episodes too, which is not, you're not pulling, like, you're not doing 7 episodes, you're not doing 6, you're not doing 8. This is 12. Lot to fill in, and they hit on every single one. Seeing the Empire actually intimidating
Yeah.
but also seeing that they're incompetent, seeing the inner workings of that, seeing the start of this rebellion, seeing how Mon Mothma is like the sacrifices she's going through to be able to fund the rebellion, to be able to have the rebellion exist, and what seeing like and Cassian's motivation for it. The whole prison arc brought a whole different level of like how evil the Empire is, which we already knew they were. They're literally blowing up planets in the first movie that we see.
Yeah.
But this is you see it in a much more grounded light, and it is it's unreal. The quality is amazing. The fact that we're getting a second season, and it is going to end with a second season. Like, there is an ending point. I think the biggest thing about this show is they went in knowing exactly what they're going to do, knowing exactly where it's going to end. They're not just like making it along the way and just going until they reach a point where they feel like it's going to end. They know where it's going to start, where it's going to end, what they're going to do in between, off rip. I think it just has that advantage over the other shows. So I think, Commander is obviously where it's going to go. What do you got to say?
I mean, just kind of piggyback on what you said. Shows that have a start and have an end all planned out before the show is even written, and essentially planned out. Like, if they have a plan for what they're gonna do, those are the best shows. Those are the shows that do the best because they actually have direction. I feel like with Mando, for example, there's not a singular direction. They're kind of seeing where they want to go with it.
Yeah.
Andor has a specific direction. I mean, the prison arc, dude, that was insane to see that. I mean, just the quality of it is phenomenal. It looks amazing. Like you said, Tony Gilroy absolutely cooking it up on the script, and there's just so many quotes in this show.
Yes,
And
like the dialogue
insane.
is far and above any Star Wars ever.
Exactly. And then like seeing characters, Mon Mothma, for example, seeing her struggles, a character that you didn't think that you needed to see the struggles of, like, background, because you didn't have a whole lot of background on screen with Mon Mothma, but you see the struggles you go through and like her character development, and you realize like, wow, like where was this the whole time? Like, this is great. And like Cassian, his backstory, you didn't think you needed it, but you see in it, and it's great. Like, characters that you don't think need a background, but then get the background and get the past and the story and their life. It's just turned out to be a phenomenal show. The best, in my opinion. Obviously, I think nothing tops this. So
yeah,
go ahead and just throw that into Commander.
I think it's going to make Rogue One so much better too, because I feel like Rogue One is the person you get attached to the most is Jyn, because it's a lot of Jyn's story. Now seeing the story of Cassian, you're going to be a lot more attached to Cassian in Rogue One, and it's going to hit even harder. So
and and his character, when you first see him, makes sense the way that he is after watching this.
Yep, exactly. So we'll go ahead and throw that in Commander, like we said. We'll move on to the next show. This one, this is, other than Ahsoka, the most recent one we watched. Tales of the Jedi. This one, it wasn't under the radar for us. It was just something that we didn't watch initially because we just didn't have the time, forgot about it, and just, we came around to it. We got to it when we got to it.
Yeah, life got in the way a little bit, but
I'll say outright, see, the thing is with this one is probably the toughest to rank to me, because it is like a short series. It is, that's what it's meant to be. It's it's not meant to be a full-blown show. It is
Hmm.
these episodes that are like they're very short stories. They're tales.
Yeah, yeah, that's
uh,
essentially what they are.
I think it's a great thing to have because there's so much flexibility to it.
Oh
You
yeah.
could do so many different seasons uh, of Tales of the Jedi about different Jedi that the possibilities are endless. So I think this is going to be like a staple for Star Wars for a long time. But specifically, this first season was amazing. Being able to see Count Dooku, you get so much more built onto Count Dooku within this, and even with Ahsoka, you see a lot more. Which who knew you could get more character building with Ahsoka, but you can.
Here
Uh,
we are.
so I think that's great, but I do think the highlight of this is Dooku because we don't see him as a Jedi.
Yeah.
So this being that first glimpse, there is the Dooku Jedi Lost book, which I know is very similar to what we see in Tales of the Jedi as well. So, but that's the only other content we have of him being a Jedi. So I think Tales of the Jedi it does what it needs to do. It's amazing at what it does. It's the thing is, I don't think it should go in Sergeant, but Rebels is definitely better than it. You know,
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely think Rebels is better than Tales
so
of the
it's
Jedi.
like, should we just throw it in Sergeant?
We can be because I was gonna think Sergeant because I just can't throw it in the tier with Rebels.
Yeah,
We could just say like it's like upper echelon of Sergeant because it's like
yeah,
because it's not bad at all. Like it's good. Like you
yeah.
said, it's
Still,
good at
it's
what it
amazing.
does.
It's amazing for like it
Yeah.
does what it needs to do, but
It
because
it
it's like the type of series it is.
exactly. That's exactly the thing is it's the just the type it is or the way that the series is I just can't put it in with Rebels having 4 seasons and having so much development between the characters like I
Yeah,
just can't put it up there in Lieutenant, I think. Even though it's great, I do enjoy it a lot. I think it's got to go in Sergeant.
yeah. So we'll go ahead throwing in Sergeant. It's unfortunate. I don't want to put anything this low, but it's
Oh
just
no, not at all.
in the terms of the tier list, it's how we have to do it.
Yes.
So now we'll move on to our next one, Obi-Wan Kenobi. The Kenobi show. This one was heavily anticipated. Only 6 episodes. Um, this one is like, I don't even want to say 50-50 for me. I think it's great, but it's like, I feel like the quality and the budget that Ahsoka got should have also been for this show. I feel like it obviously was not funded as well as Ahsoka was.
Yeah, which
For
is kind of
some
weird.
reason.
Yeah, which is weird to me because Obi-Wan Kenobi is like it's like one of the biggest names in Star Wars, Kenobi,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? So it's like it's a little weird, but
Um and a lot of people don't like, the direction of the story. It's just it's I feel like I would have been 100% okay with this story if we knew we were getting a second season because I think they should explore a lot of stuff with Qui-Gon and with learning to be a Force Ghost because what comes of that is you're seeing a lot of these flashbacks. You would see a lot of flashbacks, which I don't know if people are tired of them at this point. I'm not, but like that's just yeah. You're seeing like the original final arc of the Clone Wars with Yoda. You're seeing like Luke going into the cave on Dagobah. Like that's what you would be seeing with Obi-Wan, I would think. So I but because it's only one season, it seems like it's not going to get another one. Uh, I don't know. I would say Lieutenant. It's
I
just not on par with Mando and Ahsoka, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I was
It
gonna agree with
brings
that.
phenomenal moments, but it's just
Yeah, no, I feel the same way. Like I was gonna throw in Lieutenant, even though like out of all these, like personally, not based on like any like, because obviously I think Andor's the best show, but like emotionally, like this is my favorite show just because like because I'm so attached to these characters. Obviously, like
yeah.
seeing that moment between Obi-Wan and Anakin at the end of the series with or Darth Vader, Anakin, with his like mask tore open a little bit, and you didn't kill Anakin Skywalker, I did, with his Anakin's voice and then the Vader voice cutting in and out, and that is, oh man, that's such a top tier moment for me in Star Wars. One of my favorite moments, just because you can just see like the pain and you can just see all of the emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Like Hayden does. I can't give him enough credit. I'm the biggest fanboy of him. He does such a great job at what he does in Star Wars for the character Anakin and Darth Vader. I just love it. But I got to take my emotions, how I feel about it, out of it, and look at it as a whole on this tier list. I think Lieutenant's a good spot for it.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, because you brought up how that is like one of your favorite moments ever in Star Wars. It also has one of my favorite moments ever with Qui-Gon becoming
Oh
a Force
yes,
ghost. Like
how could I
that is
forget? Oh man,
I I cried like a baby, and it was like out of nowhere because it was just such a surreal feeling because I never thought we would be able to see Qui-Gon as a Force ghost. But they did it, and I could not be happier. I don't care that it breaks canon who cares. That was an
oh
amazing moment. It was I couldn't be happier at that.
hey,
But
we could always change the canon, and he
yeah,
trained while he trained. He figured it out how to give himself this full form. Like,
yeah,
come
he
on,
figured it out.
he
He's
figured
the
out. I
only
mean,
one that
it's
knows.
it's Qui-Gon. It's Liam Neeson. He's gonna figure it out. Come on, come on.
Who's gonna say he can't figure it out? Come on, man.
Yes.
So we'll go ahead and throw Kenobi into Lieutenant. In terms of the tier list, like you said, I think that's a great spot for what we've got going on.
Yep.
And then the final show on our tier list, we don't have Resistance in this just because we haven't watched Resistance.
I'm not watching that.
But the last show here is The Bad Batch. Now, I think I already know where this is gonna go, but dude, you say Rebels is the most underrated show, which
This is
I agree
it's
that
up
it
there.
is extremely underrated. I think Bad Batch is the most underrated. This is like Bad Batch is. I never expected to be as attached as I am to this show and these characters, but man, is it something else. It is unreal. You get an even somehow you like throughout the Clone Wars you get this perspective of the clones. Now you're getting a completely different perspective from different clones that is just a whole nother story, and it's unreal. I think the highs are super high. I think it has the fun of Clone Wars, and the first 2 seasons and we know that there's an end to this. There's only
Yeah.
3 seasons. They know where they want to end it. I'm very scared for the ending, I'll tell you
Oh,
that.
I'm terrified.
And I, I, the first 2 seasons are better than what the Clone Wars started out as,
100%.
and which is understandable because they're so far along. Like they continue to get better as they do these things. So I think it's phenomenal. I can't wait for the 3rd season, but this is easily, in my opinion, the most underrated show. The thing is though, on this list, I think we've had this discussion before about like, what would your top 5 Star Wars shows be? Well, we have our 4 in
Yep.
the top 2 tiers. Then we have 3 in Lieutenant, because I would say I'd put Bad Batch in Lieutenant. And you could choose any of those as your 5th. Bad Batch would be my 5th. But you get what I mean here. I think it should go in Lieutenant. I think it can live within those 3 shows. Just because those top 4, I think, are just a tier above the rest,
I feel
Something
that.
else about them.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. I was thinking either Captain or Lieutenant. Maybe after this 3rd season, I think it might be the best season out of all of them, just because of the way that it ended and the way that we're gonna go with it. It could definitely slip into Captain, but obviously this is right now, not talking about the future. I think Lieutenant. I can get down with Lieutenant because it does.
I would love to put it in Captain.
Yeah, I know.
But I think with the 3rd season is when it would move up.
Yeah. So for now, right now where we're at, I think Lieutenant's a good spot. Because I will say, like, the start of the show was really good, seeing Order 66 happen, and then they're just standing there like what's going on?
What's going on?
Yeah, they're like, why are you guys like going crazy? And then they look and they're like, or Tech brings it up about the Order 66,
mm-hmm.
and he like reads it off to him, and they're just like, huh, that's weird. Like, because it's just like their inhibitor chips just didn't work at first, which is just hilarious. But seeing Wrecker, because his inhibitor chip did kick in eventually, like when they were getting him out with the help of Rex.
Yeah.
And he was terrifying in that moment. He was extremely terrifying. But this is my second like most underrated show.
Yeah.
Obviously I think Rebels is the most underrated, but this is so slept on, it's insane. More people need to be watching this.
And we always talk about how tragic Star Wars is.
Oh, dude.
There's almost never any happy endings. This might be the most tragic show. It has never ended on something happy. You
talked about the high of the highs. Well, man, this had some low lows.
Okay, now, when I said high highs, I meant like good parts.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant like good moments, because there are good moments, but man.
Yeah, no, I don't mean like sad moments.
But man, this, oof. Tech, R.I.P. We miss you.
Camino gets destroyed.
Camino,
or
R.I.P.
not Camino, but Tipoca City.
Tipoca City, we miss you. I mean, I don't know if I need to really say anything more about it. It's just go watch it for yourself, and you'll understand.
Shows a lot of the evil of the Empire again that we talked about with Andor.
Yes, which is a great aspect. But
yeah,
Lieutenant. I think I'm set on Lieutenant. I think that's a good spot.
We'll throw it in Lieutenant. Maybe eventually down the line we'll do another one. We'll do an updated version.
Yeah.
And we'll see where it lands there. I really do think it's already probably my fifth in my top 5, but it is going to be like solidified there after the 3rd season, I'm thinking. It's just God, I'm so scared for how that's going to end, but
please, everybody live.
Yes, please. Please, everyone live.
We don't need to lose another one.
Yeah. But there is our Star Wars TV show tier list. To go over it real quick, we have Clone Wars and Andor in the top commander tier. Makes sense. Those are just... they're far and away the best to me.
Easily.
In Captain, we've got Mando and Ahsoka. Lieutenant, we've got Rebels, Kenobi, and Bad Batch. And Sergeant, we have Book of Boba and Tales of the Jedi. Obviously, we don't think any of these are bad. We love them all. But comparing them against each other, that's how this turns out. So, thank you guys for watching this Climbing the Ranks. If you have any suggestions for tier lists in the future, please leave them in the comments below. And with that, we'll go ahead and send you back to the boys in the studio.